After a long-awaited comeback from the On The Grid podcast, we are finally back. We stopped recording after the Monaco Grand Prix in 2022. We're in the year 2023 now, and the F1 season is on the horizon with only a month away until the Bahrain Grand Prix. Welcome back. Episode 1 of the new season, Season 3 of On The Grid podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Kita, and I've got a very familiar face on the podcast this time out. Harvey's not with me anymore as a co-host. He's vanished. Harvey, if you're listening, I want you back. But nevertheless, I've brought a long-time guest and stepping up to the plate as co-host for Season 3, Ethan Evans. Ethan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time without the podcast, and I think it's the right time to bring the podcast back a month before the season begins. We've obviously seen a few of the car liveries come out. We're going to do a separate episode on the car liveries once they're all released, probably just after pre-season testing, I believe, once they're all released, as I say. But in this episode, we're going to do a bit of an early season prediction. We've not seen any of the new cars running, but we've obviously seen the whole 20 driver lineup announced as a whole. So we're going to look at the 20 drivers in depth, and we've got 4 categories for today's episode. We've got top 3, 4 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 to 20. So I think it's a good place to kind of recap what happened last season, and look at the drivers as a whole. So obviously Max Verstappen won the championship last season, very dominantly, with Leclerc coming second and Perez in third. George Russell came fourth, with Carlos Sainz in fifth, Hamilton in sixth, Lando Norris an impressive seventh for McLaren, Ocon in eighth, Alonso in ninth, Bottas in 10th. I believe it was Seb Vettel in 11th, but obviously he's gone on to pastures new. And the first driver that appears to me on the list, obviously Ricciardo as well, he's gone. He's at Red Bull on a reserve driver role. I think we'll speak about him a bit more in future episodes. But we've obviously on the grid, we've got Magnussen, who finished 13th, Gasly at Alpine now. He finished 14th for AlphaTauri last season. Lance Stroll finished 15th. We've obviously got Yuki Tsunoda in AlphaTauri, Nick De Vries as well. Hulkenberg stepping up to Haas. Albon and Sargent at Williams. It's a lot has happened in 12 months, I believe, that we haven't been recording. But I think let's begin with a man who finished second last season in the championship, Charles Leclerc. Ethan, I'll give you the reins first, because obviously everybody knows I'm a Charles Leclerc fan. So I think it's safe. I think it's better for you to give your predictions on Charles first. Obviously finishing second last season, he's going to be a bit disappointed. Do you think he'll go one better, or do you think he'll fade away if Ferrari fade away with their car?
It's going to be a difficult one. I think depending on the cars, my top 3 can fluctuate. But I think my top 3 will be the top 3 in the championship. They're the best 3 drivers on the grid by a mile. I've gone Leclerc third, but however, as I said, if the Ferrari's good, there's talk about them having this engine boost. They fix their reliability issues apparently, meaning they can turn their engine back up. If they have the pace they had last year, plus they can add a bit more thought to the strategy, not make so many mistakes, I think they could be on for a very good season. But as it is for now, based on the information we have available to us, I've gone Leclerc to finish third.
Okay, so we'll definitely put him in the top 3 category. So personally,
I know which way you're going to go.
Hand on heart, I think that this will be Leclerc's year. I generally believe that he will win the championship this year. And the reason why is, you mentioned their reliability issues. Leclerc had a lot of reliability issues with that Ferrari. Similarly with Max Verstappen in early season with Red Bull. But I think Leclerc's look wasn't there at all. And I think he will learn upon his mistakes in 2023. We obviously saw a lot of mistakes last season, and I think he'll go one better. I think he'll win the championship from my early season predictions. But as it stands, the two of us have said he's top three pedigree, so I'll put him in top three. Lewis Hamilton next up. I think it's safe to say that I should go first on that one, with you being a Hamilton fan. And I've gone with Hamilton in third. I think that he'll obviously be ruining the mistakes of last season, and obviously Mercedes went up to standard last season. I think George Russell performed very well in that Mercedes car, but I think Hamilton just didn't quite achieve the best he possibly could. He obviously finished sixth in the championship. But I genuinely do believe that Hamilton will come third in the championship. I think it'll be a tight battle between Leclerc, Verstappen, and Hamilton next season. Ethan, your thoughts on the seven-time world champ?
Now, I think I'm a little bit guilty of doing what you've done for Charles Leclerc, and I have gone for Hamilton to win the championship. I think if Mercedes have that car put together, then, what could be better than a seven-time world champion in it? I think just the experience and the know-how is going to play a key battle. So I think, depending on the car, as I said again, as you alluded to earlier, we don't know anything about how the car's going to behave. But I have gone for Hamilton to win the championship. More, well, say about it what you will, whether it's a bit of bias or whether I just want him desperately to get that eighth. But yeah, no, I think Hamilton will return to winning ways definitely this season, and I think he'll clinch title number 8.
Yeah, like you say, go back to winning ways. He didn't achieve a win at all last season. 9 podiums, 240 points from my notes over here. But the both of us have agreed that he is top 3 worthy, so I'll put him in the top 3 category. Next up, Carlos Chile Sainz, another Ferrari driver on the agenda. I have gone for 6th for Carlos Sainz. I think if Ferrari have a rocket ship, which I hope they do, fingers crossed, I think that he's going to play the second driver role. I think he will play second fiddle to Charles Leclerc. Similarly to Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, I think Chile's a fantastic driver. Carlos is a great driver, don't get me wrong. I rate him very highly, but I think that especially Fred Vasseur now being as team principal, I think the Leclerc-Vasseur partnership, I think that Vasseur's likely to promote Carlos down a little bit, down the pecking order, and boost Charles Leclerc's chances as much as possible. What do you think, Ethan? What are Carlos's chances?
You say about the Vasseur-Leclerc partnership. Well, I think he came out in a recent interview and said he actually wanted Sainz at Alfa Romeo at one stage. I can't remember which season. So I think Sainz is a very dependable driver. He's proven that in his time in F1. I think it is kind of a make or break season for him, whether he can really assert himself as, an equal driver, an equal number one driver that should be allowed to fight for race wins, or whether he is just seen as the number 2 driver. So I think it's a very, very important season for him. As it stands, I'm putting him in 5th. So not too dissimilar from yours, but I do think Leclerc has just got a little bit too much for Sainz this year.
Okay, so roughly we're agreeing on this one as well. Between 4 and 10 again. We've agreed on 3 out of 3, technically speaking. Next up, a rookie. He had his first race in F1 last season at Italy at Monza. Finished in the points, scored 2 points on his F1 debut, and he's making a full-time step up into F1. It's Nick de Vries. Obviously, he won F2. He didn't get the chance to move up to F1, and he moved to Formula E, won Formula E, and now he's finally got the chance with AlphaTauri alongside Yuki Tsunoda. to battle against the young Japanese driver. Ethan, do you want to go first on this one? Because I think it's a hard one with Nick De Vries. Obviously, we saw what he did with that Williams car. Like it was a very good drive for him to finish ninth at Monza, and I think that he's got the potential to do very well this season.
He's got the potential, yeah, definitely. We saw that at Monza, although Monza isn't the most difficult track if you come in for a one-off race. I think Monza would be your pick. Maybe someone like Silverstone or Canada, another track like that. This is a very difficult one. He's earned his seat. You can't say he hasn't. He's stepped away after winning F2. He's gone out on one Formula, as he said, and he took his chance in that Williams. This could come back to bite me. I've put him down in 18th. I think the AlphaTauri last year was a tractor, essentially. It finished 9th overall in the constructors. And I think De Vries is going to take a little bit of time to settle in. And I think he's going to finish down in 18th.
The first one we're disagreeing on, because I've actually put De Vries ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Call me a madman, but I think that Nick De Vries has the potential to have a very good season, depending on car reliability, performance, etc. But I think raw pace, talent, and expertise, I've put Nick De Vries in 13th. I think that he's going to finish near the top 10. I don't think he's going to score points consistently, but I think he'll be up there. I don't think he'll be as low as you've put him.
I tell you what, I think if there's one driver or one rookie I can see beating their teammate, it would be De Vries. I'll just point that out. I think he's the closest I've got out of the rookies to their teammate, so I can see him beating Tsunoda. To be perfectly honest, yeah.
But what do you think? Where do we put him? Do we put him down in the 16 to 20 category or 11 to 15 category?
Oh, it's right on the border, isn't it? Because even if you take an average, it's sort of 15, 16. I'm happy to go with you on this one.
Okay. We'll stick Nick De Vries in 11 to 15. We can obviously rejig it at the end and see what we think about it. Next up, it's going to be the number one Alpine driver for this season, Esteban Ocon. Obviously, Fernando Alonso has jumped ship to Aston Martin. So Esteban Ocon is paired up with Pierre Gasly. I think that's going to be one of the fiercest inter-team battles we're going to have, because they're both French, they both hate each other, they're both karting rivals, and I think
they both crop each other out of Instagram pictures.
I think he'll be Alpine chaos. But then again, they were seen at a basketball game not long ago with Charles Leclerc, so I think all is good. But yeah, Esteban Ocon, he finished last season in 8th, ahead of Fernando Alonso by 11 points. I've put him up in 9th. I think that he's going to have another decent season at Alpine. I don't think it's going to be as good as last season with his points tally. I think he'll be a little bit less. And I think he'll be in the points near enough every race. So I've put him in 9th place. Ethan?
No, I completely agree. I've also gone for him to finish 9th. I think he's a very, very solid driver. You know what you're going to get, and he always consistently pick up points. I think he was one of the most underrated drivers last season, if I'm being honest. Obviously, Alonso got spotlight, almost starting in the front row in Australia. He did start in the front row in Canada, but Ocon was very, very dependable. He was always getting sort of an 8th, a 7th, a 6th. He was always there picking up points for Alpine, which is why I think he ends up beating Alonso over the course of the season, who's more consistent throughout.
Next up, Alex Albon. Yet again, that Williams, I've seen that Williams livery. We're obviously going to talk about liveries a bit more in future episodes when we have a look at the overall 10 liveries that we've got this season. But I think that it's going to be a bit more of a same for Williams. I don't think Albon's going to do tremendously. He finished 19th last season, but I've put him ahead of 3 drivers. I've put him in 17th. I think he's going to be near or thereabouts near the top 10 for a few races, but I don't think he's going to be able to score points that consistently. So yeah, I'll put him down in 17th. Ethan, your thoughts on Albon? He's a very good driver. You can't take it away from him.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more a statement about the car than the driver. I think Albon really suits the Williams environment. If not, he's too good for it almost. He needed that move last year when he went to Williams, and he had a very solid season last season. I've gone very similar to you. I've gone from in 16th. I think, he's a very good driver, but I'm obviously there's question marks about that Williams. It was the worst car in 2022. And, it remains to be seen whether they can really push on and catch up to the rest of that field. But I do think Albon will score more points than last season, yeah.
Next up, it's Nico Hülkenberg returning to a full-time seat after a time in Renault. He's back in F1. He's at Haas this time with Kevin Magnussen. It's another battle that I see inter-team battles galore this season. Obviously, we can picture that infamous press conference. Well, it was outdoor press conference scene with him and Kevin Magnussen after the race. We know what happened there. I'm not going to repeat what he exactly said because it's not very nice. But I don't think Hülkenberg's going to live up to the ability that he's got. I simply see him flopping. I do not see him performing very well. It may come back to bite me because Haas could be very good this season, once like they did last season. But I see Hülkenberg finishing down in 19th. I think that I personally don't think he's got it anymore. I don't think he's got the touch. I don't think he's going to do very well. These words may come back to haunt me. I must admit, I just don't see it. I really do not see Hülkenberg performing very well. Ethan, I've seen your reaction to my words. You're probably gonna say something else.
Yeah, no, I pretty much disagree completely. I think that obviously, yeah, he's had a few years out, but then again, Magnussen had a year out and then came back and done very well. And it's not as if Hülkenberg's not been in the Formula One environment. He's stepped in a few times at Aston Martin in particular, even in last two races. So I do think Hülkenberg's going to be a very, very solid driver for Haas. I think, last season, they cost themselves a lot of points with Schumacher and Magnussen. Both of them made a lot of mistakes throughout the season and cost Haas a lot of points, where I think Hülkenberg's almost going to be the opposite. He's going to maybe not hit the heights that, say, Magnussen might this season, but I think he'll be very, very dependable. So I've gone for Hülkenberg to finish 13th.
Okay, as we went for my DeVries prediction, we'll go with your Hülkenberg prediction. So I'll put him to the 11 to 15 category for now. Moving on to Pierre Gasly. Obviously, the new boy at Alpine, moving from AlphaTauri, I think he's going to have a better season than Ocon. I think he's going to pip him to 8th place. I think he's going to finish inside the top 10. I think, obviously, we spoke about the AlphaTauri being an absolute tractor last season. Alpine, I think, will be dependable for Gasly. I think it's a worthy step up. Obviously, he made the step up at Red Bull from Toro Rosso, which was a bit too early, but I think the AlphaTauri to Alpine step up is well earned, and I think he'll do a good job for Alpine. Ethan, are we of the same thoughts?
100%. I think this is a perfect move for Gasly. I think this is what his career needed. Obviously, he had that fantastic 2021 season at AlphaTauri. Then last season, he was almost a forgotten man, wasn't he, really? The AlphaTauri, as we said, it wasn't good enough. And Gasly kind of paid the price, went under the radar a little bit. But I think the Alpine is a very solid car. It's the fourth best on the grid, I believe. And with Gasly, top of the midfield, I think this suits him perfectly. So I've not gone 8th. I've gone 7th for Pierre Gasly this season.
Very good. We agree on another one. Moving on to George Russell. He was the better of the two Mercedes drivers last season. He obviously scored a race victory, 8 podiums, 275 points in the championship. A very good season for GR. at Mercedes. I'm going to play it short and sweet. I think he's going to be the top of that range between 4 to 10 category. I put him in 4. I think he'll, yet again, I think between Hamilton and Russell, I think Hamilton's going to get propelled more. Like you said, you want Hamilton to win the championship. I put Hamilton in 3rd. I think there's going to be a bit more of an equal playing field here between the two Mercedes drivers. I was going to allude to Russell playing the number 2 role, but I think once again it's going to be more of a equal playing field and Russell doing his own thing alongside Hamilton doing his own thing. What do you think of the other Mercedes driver? Do you think he's going to reach the dizzying heights like he did last season?
No, I've gone 4th as well. I think the exact same reason. Basically, I think neither driver is gonna want to be the number 1. I think Hamilton has kind of made a point in the past of saying, I want to be on level pegging with my teammates at the start of the season and then see how it progresses. I think Russell had a fantastic 2022. He was up there with one of the drivers of the season, and I believe he'll finish 4th, and I think he'll really cement himself as one of the best drivers on the grid with a lot more podiums, a few more race wins, hopefully.
I think that's what's needed for George Russell. I think if he is to perform at the level Lewis Hamilton has set at Mercedes, I think he needs another good season, with potentially Lewis Hamilton exiting very shortly. I think he's going to be wanting to take the baton over very soon. Moving on to Guan Yu Zhou. He's not a rookie anymore. It's 2nd season in Formula One. Performed very well last season and obviously secured himself another year in Formula One. But then again, will he perform at the same rate as Valtteri Bottas? I don't think so. I think that he's likely to finish near the back. I don't think he's going to do that well. Obviously, last season he finished 18th, and I think this season he'll finish 18th as well. I don't think it's going to be promising signs for Guan Yu Zhou. I think with Alfa Romeo, I think they're going to be wanting to propel Théo Pourchaire into the seat in 2024. I think Guan Yu Zhou's this season is the season. Last season we said it was the season. He performed well and he obviously got the seat for this year. And I think this season is the same case. It's going to be the season for Guan Yu Zhou if he wants to stick in Formula One for some more time. Ethan, what do you think of a Chinese driver? Do you think he's going to perform at the heights of Valtteri Bottas, or do you think he's going to be at the lows of 18th, 19th, 20th place potentially?
I think, as you said, I think it's definitely a make or break season for Guan Yu Zhou. He performed brilliantly last year. I was very surprised about how good he was. I wasn't really expecting too much last year of him, but he performed very well. Earned this 2nd season in F1, but yeah, this is a make or break season. Either you cement his place on the grid, or this will be his last season, and somebody else, such as Théo Pourchaire, will come in to replace him at Alfa Romeo. I've kind of gone a little bit in the middle. I haven't got him as close to Valtteri Bottas, but I do think he'll do better than 18th. I'd put him in 14th this season. I think he'll be able to make that step up. At the start of last season, when that Alfa Romeo was good, Valtteri Bottas was putting in 5th place, 6th place, but Guan Yu Zhou was putting in very good performances considering he was a rookie as well. He just had no luck. When the car was quick, he had awful reliability. When the car was slow, he was beating Bottas. So I think it was a very unfortunate season for Guan Yu Zhou last year, even though he impressed a lot of people on the grid. So yeah, I think he'll make a bit of a step up, but whether that'll be enough remains to be seen.
Should we put him at a middle ground then? You said 14th, I said 18th. So should we put him 16th?
Yeah, I'm happy with 16th.
Okay, we'll put him ahead of Alex here. Moving on to Kevin Magnussen, a bit of K-Mag. Ethan, you can start on Kevin Magnussen. I think, like you said, you were impressed with him last season. Do you think he's going to have another good season at Haas?
This is a difficult one because if you actually break down his 2022, obviously he had that fantastic start and a fantastic end. But between there wasn't too much to it. He had the 5th place in Bahrain coming off his sofa from a week ago. And then he had the pole at Brazil. But other than that, he had a few good performances, but it was laced with a lot of crashes, a lot of chaos, a lot of meatball flags. it was a difficult one for Kevin Magnussen. I think he'll be 15th. I've got Hulkenberg to finish just ahead of him. As I said earlier, I think Hulkenberg is slightly more reliable. Maybe not as on their day as good. But yeah, no, I think 15th for K-Mag.
I couldn't agree more. I've also got him 15th. Off he goes into 15th, into the 11 to 15 category. I mean, I couldn't agree more with your statements. I think he had a good start to the season and a good end to the season. There was just nothing in between that kind of like it. The start was good. He was in the headlines. The end was good. He was in the headlines, and then the middle he just kind of faded away. You heard nothing of K-Mag in between. So yeah, I'll agree with you there. 15th place for Kevin Magnussen. Lance Stroll, probably the driver that's got the most secure F1 seat in the whole entire world. Daddy's cash, as we like to call him. Daddy's cash. But with that being said, Lance wasn't brilliant last season. 18 points only. His best finish was 6th. I've got Lance in 16th. So the 16th to 20 category. We've obviously got Guan Yu Zhou in there in 16th, but roughly speaking, 16th to 20 category for Lance Stroll. I don't think he's going to be as reliable as Fernando Alonso, and it's going to obviously be testament to Aston Martin whether they're going to build a good car for Fernando Alonso, because I think obviously Fernando is going to be propelled as that top dog in the Aston Martin pecking order. But Ethan, what are your opinions on Lance? Do you think he's going to have another stinker, or will he be able to potentially play a better second fiddle role to Fernando Alonso than he did to Sebastian Vettel?
Now, I think because obviously his father owns the team, it's very difficult to call Lance Stroll a second driver, because he's never going to see himself at that. The team are never going to see him as a second driver. It doesn't matter how many championships the driver alongside of him has. I've got this as the biggest disparity between two teammates, I think. I think this is going to be the largest gap between two teammates. I've gone for Lance Stroll to finish 19th. I don't think the Aston Martin is going to be very good. I mean, it's going to take a step forward with Fernando Alonso propelling the team forward, but I just think that he's not going to be able to get anywhere near Alonso. I think we could quite. I feel very secure in saying that, you know, Alonso is going to beat him in pretty much every single qualifying race, in my personal opinion. You remember how sort of we had the battles between like Ricciardo and Norris, or Albon and Latifi. I can see this one going the same way, to be honest.
You know what? I think that has actually made my day. That's actually relatively funny. But then again, Lance Stroll is a type of driver where he's not done much since his pole position at Turkey in 2020.
Well, remember when he had that, I think it was after Monza in 2020, and he had that run of, he finished second, he finished third in the end. He should have won that race. And then he had that run of the next sort of 7 or 8 races where I think he got about 4 points in what was in 2020 the Racing Point, which was the third quickest car. He had an awful run after that. And as he said, since that pole at Istanbul, what's he done? You know, he's had the occasional good result. Aston Martin ended the season last year very well. But, you know, if you ask me to name a memorable Lance Stroll performance, I can't. I can only really name the pole at Istanbul, and even then he didn't end up finishing in the top 6 in the race.
Poor strategy, that's what I call it, from the Aston Martin crew. Well, I think it was Racing Point then. It wasn't Aston Martin, it was Racing Point then. But moving on to our next driver, it is Mr. Lando Norris, Mr. Twitchman himself, Mr. Valentino Rossi fan himself. I've put Norris in 7th. He finished 7th last season. I think he'll finish 7th this season. I think McLaren have found it very hard with the regulation changes in 2022. I think they'll find it tough once again in 2023. I don't think he's going to do that well Well, that well, I say that well. He finished on the podium last season once, so he did well for himself compared to Daniel Ricciardo. But yeah, I think that Norris will finish seventh. I don't think he'll be as close to the top three teams. I think it's going to be roughly about the same as 2022. Ethan, your thoughts on Lando Norris? Do you think he'll finish more closer to the top three teams, or do you think he'll be about the same as last season?
Well, I think it goes back to his nickname, really, in the paddock, as much as he seems to hate it, about best of the rest. Now, you've gone for Norris 7th, Gasly 8th. I've gone the other way around. So I've got Norris to finish 8th. I think, well, like you said, he got a podium last year, but the thing is, he was the only person outside the top three teams to get a podium. He was the only midfield driver or surprise driver to get a podium, which speaks levels to how well he performed in 2022. I just don't think it's going to be as simple for him this year. I think Alpine will be closer. The top three teams, especially if Mercedes get their act together, how many points did Norris in the opening sort of 5-6 races take off the Mercedes? So I think it's going to be a very difficult season for Norris. I think he's gonna comprehensively beat Piastri in the McLaren, but I don't think he's going to reach the heights he did last season, unfortunately for him.
Moving on to another new driver. He's switched teams from Alpine to Aston Martin. It is Fernando Alonso. He's obviously at the Aston Martin outfit for this season. I think Fernando is going to drop off the pace a little bit. I don't think he's going to reach the heights that he did at Alpine when he finished 9th last season. I've dropped him down to 11th. I think that he's going to be a lot better than Lance Stroll, as we've kind of figured out. I think he's going to lead the team forward, but I don't think he's going to be able to lead the team to the top of the midfield. I think he's going to be inside the top 10 consistently, but I think at the end, when it comes to the final race of the season, I think he's going to finish just outside the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Ethan, your thoughts on Fernando? Obviously, you can't go past his experience and his talent throughout his time in F1, but do you think potentially his career in F1 is fading ever so slightly?
I don't think he thinks that. If you watched him last year, I don't think he believed he was 41 years old and on his way out. I think Alonso is probably the most difficult driver to place on this ranking. I've seen some people put him up in 7th. I've seen other people put him in 17th. I've gone for in the middle. I've gone for 12th. I think along the same lines as you, I don't think that Aston Martin is going to be particularly quick. I think Alonso is going to have to do a lot of work to propel that team forward. But this relationship could go sour very quickly, depending on the strategy calls with Alonso and Stroll. I don't think they'll only be anywhere near each other. But if they start to give Stroll preferential treatment, then I don't think Alonso will be too happy with that, and it could blow up quite quickly.
Moving swiftly onwards to the two-time world champion Max Verstappen. I think let's just quickly move on from him. And are we both agreeing that he's going to be in the top 3?
Yeah, definitely. I think we both put him in second. Whether that's a little bit of bias towards our preferred driver or not, but yeah, no, you can't say Verstappen's not going to be in the top 3 this season.
Yeah, he's definitely top 3 worthy. I think either way, like I said, I think it's going to be a season-long battle between Leclerc, Verstappen, and Hamilton. If those 3 cars are at the peak and at the best. Moving on to another rookie, Oscar Piastri. I think this one's going to be a very interesting one. Obviously, won 3 championships back to back, which was the Formula Renault, the F3 and the F2 championship. He obviously had a bit of a season out last season on the sidelines as a reserve role. I've put Oscar in 12th. Hear me out. I think that out of those 3 drivers, you said that out of De Vries, Piastri and Sargent, you think that De Vries will obviously be his teammate. I don't think Piastri will be his teammate, but I think Piastri will give Norris a good run for his money. The kid is talented. He's a very good driver. He's very gritty and determined. So I think that he'll give it his all, his best, his utmost best to potentially be near Lando. He won't finish near Lando in my standings. I've put Lando 7th and Oscar in 12th. But Ethan, do you think that Oscar's going to finish in the low measly category of 16 to 20, or do you think he's going to be likely near the midfield 11, 15?
I don't think he can be in the 16 to 20. When you cause the amount of chaos he has, he had 3 teams go in for him and he's never raced in F1 before. So this is going to be, this is a very, very big season for Oscar Piastri. There's a lot of talk around him. I think there's enough talking now. I think it's time to see what he can do. I don't think he's going to be on the level of Norris. I think Norris is too good, but I don't think anybody's expecting him to come in and beat Norris. I think a solid race or a solid season for Piastri would do him some good, and then build a foundation to build off for subsequent seasons. I've gone quite similar to you. I've gone for 11th. So I don't think he'll be as far off Norris as you say. I've got a three place differential for me personally. That's what I said. But yeah, I think he'll be some way off Norris this season.
4 drivers to go, and we move on to our last rookie on the grid for the 2023 season. It's Logan Sargeant. He finished 4th in F2 with 148 points, 2 wins and 4 podiums. I don't think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to finish last in 20th. I think that Felipe Drugovich, F2 champion, was more deserved of a seat. Teo Pourchaire, Liam Lawson are 2 others that were more deserved of a seat. The only thing that propelled Logan Sargeant into the seat is his role at Williams as a development driver. With him also being in the Williams Academy. So Logan, I'm sorry, but prove me wrong. I hope you do prove me wrong. I hope you have the best rookie season of your life compared to the other 2 rookies in Oscar Piastri and Nick De Vries. But I don't see him being up there. I think Albon's gonna be that number 1 driver. He's likely going to slowly bed Logan into Williams' team. But yeah, I think Logan's gonna finish 20th. I don't think he's gonna do that well.
Yeah, I think this is pretty obvious. I think pretty much everybody has gone for the same. Is thinking the same thing with Logan Sargeant. No one's really expecting him to come in and beat Alex Albon. I just hope it's not a similar situation to Latifi, where he's only come in for the money he brings in. Obviously, he's got that American attraction for Williams with the increase in American fan base in Formula One. So I hope it's not purely because of that he's found himself in Formula One, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I've also gone for him to come 20th, though.
Another one that we agree on. Moving on to Sergio Perez. Checo obviously finished in 3rd last season, but this season I see him falling off a pace a little bit. I think the increased pressure with Daniel Ricciardo as a reserve driver, another driver that will be under a serious amount of pressure will be Mr. Sergio Perez. I've put him down in 5th. I don't think he's going to be near Max Verstappen once again. I think he's going to be a little bit way off, and I think that relationship between the 2 Red Bull drivers has already turned sour. Obviously, last season in Brazil, we saw what happened between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. He didn't let Sergio by, and as soon as that happened, you know that the 2023 season between the 2 Red Bull drivers could become a very feisty affair. Ethan, do you think that Sergio's going to be close to Verstappen, or do you think he's going to likely be once again playing second fiddle at Red Bull?
No, I think out of the top 3 teams, I think he's the weakest of the 6 drivers. I think he'll finish 6th myself. Everyone's got their opinion on what happened in Brazil last year. Personally, I can't understand it from Verstappen's point of view with everything that Perez has helped him do. He's got out of the way. He's never questioned the team order, even if he's disagreed with it. But it's a difficult one. I hope he can prove us wrong. I hope he can really be on Verstappen's gearbox, but no, I don't see it's happening. Definitely not to sustain it over a whole season. So no, I've gone 6th.
On to our penultimate driver, Valtteri Bottas, second season at Alfa Romeo. Obviously, he had a very good season last season, finishing 10th, 49 points, best finish of 5th. Once again, I've stuck with the same place for Valtteri Bottas. I think he's going to finish slap bang in the middle. I think he's going to finish 10th. I think he did very well for Alfa Romeo this season. He's going to carry that team once again on his back, and the thing's going to finish slap bang in the middle. I don't think he's going to be up there near the top of the midfield, but I don't think he's going to be down there at the bottom of the pack. I think he's going to be slap bang in the middle, finishing 10th place. Ethan, your thoughts on the thing? Do you think that Alfa Romeo are going to lightly put all their faith in him, especially with Guan Yu Zhou having another make or break season?
Yeah, I think I've gone for the exact same reason. I think Valtteri Bottas is a very solid driver. I've gone for 10th, middle of the pack. I don't think he'll hit the same heights he did last season. I don't think he'll be battling Mercedes. I don't think he'll be getting too many 5th, 6th, 7th places. But I think he's a very dependable driver. He suits that Alfa Romeo environment down to a T. And, we'll have to wait and see what's in store for Valtteri. But yeah, I think he'll have a good season again.
And our final driver, Yuki Tsunoda. There's only one place he could go, which is this category, 16th to 20th. We may have to rejig it. We may have to rethink it of which driver could potentially drop down. But I've gone for Yuki Tsunoda in 14th. I think that Nick De Vries will beat him. I think that Nick De Vries will have a better and more consistent season than Yuki. And I don't see Yuki having a very productive season. I think he's going to have a few good performances here and there, but I don't think he's going to be on the level of Nick De Vries. I think if Nick can bring his A game and AlphaTauri have a very good, reliable car, I think Nick will beat Yuki with relative ease. Ethan, do you think that Yuki deserves to be relegated to 16th to 20th, or whether we relegate someone from 11th to 15th and give Yuki their place?
Well, I put Yuki to finish 17th. I know this is one of my hot takes. I don't particularly rate him that highly. I know a lot of people say he's a very good driver, and on his day, of course, he is very good. But we don't see enough of his day. He's very prone to a crash. How many times has he made a mistake, or he's crashed over his 2 years in F1? And personally, I do see this could. I think the only way, based on my prediction, that Tsunoda stays in F1 is if there's a lack of talent, a lack of other drivers coming through. I had him to edge out De Vries, but I still don't think that'll be enough. I think this is a very important season for Yuki Tsunoda. But no, I said 17th. Yeah, I'm happy to stick with that one.
Yep, I'm also very happy to stick him in the 16th to 20th category. So let's give everyone a rundown of our 4 categories. So in the top 3 categories, we've placed Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. Those 3 drivers are arguably the top 3 drivers on the grid. I don't think anyone can disagree with that statement right there. With 4 to 10, we've gone with George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, the 2 Alpine drivers of Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris and Valtteri Bottas. 11 to 15, we've gone with Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Nick De Vries, Nico Hülkenberg, and Kevin Magnussen. And 16th to 20th, Guan Yu Zhou, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, and Logan Sargent. That concludes our early season predictions. We'll probably revisit them after a few rounds or even midway through the season, just to see whether any of these drivers will be moving up or down. Obviously, you guys can also play along with this. It's a simple tier maker. Give us your thoughts and feelings on who will finish where. Who do you think the best constructor will be? And who will win the championship, the 2023 F1 Championship? That's all for episode 1 of On The Grid podcast for season 3. Thank you, Ethan, for joining me on this episode. It's great to have On The Grid podcast back, isn't it?
It is definitely great to be back podcasting. Can't wait for the season ahead. It's about what have we got by now? Feels like years, but yeah, we'll eagerly be awaiting the 5th of March to watch the first race and see how wrong we are.
I guarantee you'll be so wrong. But yes, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for engaging. Make sure to listen to the podcast, follow our social medias, all that good stuff. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.